I'm Madeline Blair, and this is Unlocked. If you're serious about your career, this show is for you. Whether you're a formal leader or not, you're always the leader of yourself. And decisions about yourself are ones you make. The question is, do you have options? Unlocked is a show all about opening possibilities so that when you are hit with the unexpected, you do have options from which to choose. Now, if you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn, I'm going to invite you to ask questions and make comments. Periodically through the show, I'm going to be checking those, and any questions, I'll bring them to our guests. So I welcome you to do that. Our topic today is real connection in the digital realm. So stay tuned. Real connection in the digital realm. 40 years ago, I began a journey to bring the world into my office. I was at the World Bank at the time, and it was incredibly hard to do that. Transmission was slow. The images were the size of postage stamps, sometimes even smaller. And we won't talk about the so-called reliability. Today, we regularly bring the world into our offices and even into our homes. So much so that we complain about being fatigued after hours of Zoom meetings, about being bored as we listen to lectures where we can't even raise our hand, about being overwhelmed because we're expected to attend multiple meetings without even a break to walk down the hall, about being intimidated when asked to speak up in a group of 300 attendees and there's no podium to hide behind. That said, there is real joy when you work with someone on the other side of the globe and achieve something that amazes both of you. There is real joy when you're able to talk with someone who becomes a friend you've never met, but you talk with regularly. For those of us who conduct virtual events, we struggle to help the participants find joy in the session, to be engaged from the start to the finish, to feel they're making a real contribution, to be able to express themselves as they truly are without a handshake or a hug. Well, today I am delighted to bring not one, but two guests. Amy Lenzo and Firehawk, both experts, experienced, and passionate about the subject. So welcome, you guys.
Thanks, Madeline.
Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. Well, let me tell the audience a little bit about you too. Amy Lenzo is a global leader in designing and facilitating online engagement for international meetings, learning programs, and other participatory events, fascinated by the potential of electronic media to connect across geographic and cultural boundaries and develop a truly global mindset. Amy's company, Redialogue, brings together state-of-the-art digital technology, conversational methodologies, and earth-connected hosting for truly connected engagement. Sourced in a deep appreciation of the natural world and its power to provide the ground for transformation, the goal of her work is to create hospitable space online. My other guest is Firehawk. Firehawk worked in media production for 22 years prior to meeting his teachers. Although he continues with his love of video, photography, and soul collage, he is on a 30-year journey to give back the gift of earth wisdom that he was given from his teachers. We got to hear more about that, right? Today, he also works with Amy in what he and Amy call the digital realm. Over the last decade or so, both of my guests, Amy and Firehawk, have explored what it means and what it takes to inhabit and gather in the digital realm as sacred space. There's so much from your background that I want to hear more about, and we will. Amy and Firehawk, again, welcome to Unlocked.
It's great to be here, Madeline.
Oh, thank you. It's great to have you. I have so looked forward to this conversation. You have no idea. And what I like to do at the beginning is to extend an opportunity to my guests to help the audience get to know you as a human being. You know, something about your path, your passion, whatever you want to share so that they can connect with you. So, Amy, why don't we begin with you?
Okay. So when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about something that's really key to both Firehawk and I is that we're photographers. We're both photographers, and Firehawk brings expertise in video as well. So that's a whole nother thing. But we often think of ourselves as looking at life through a beauty lens. And that's a conscious choice, and what it is, what you photograph and how, and in what proportions and what composition and so on. So that appreciation of the beautiful, whether or not it's conventionally beautiful to everyone, but seeing the beauty in life is really core to both of us. So I wanted to add that piece.
Oh, marvelous. Thank you. Firehawk.
When I graduated from college, I spent 2 years in a mental hospital, but not as a patient. I was a mental health specialist type 1, which was the only, and I had a theater arts degree. So it was a very interesting beginning to my career. And some years after that, started a media company in the Midwest. And our intent was to create materials in the mental health field that would make a difference. We saw that the mental health facilities that we all worked in, there were about 9 of us, were revolving doors. People would go and get some medication and then come back, and over and over and over again. Anyway, fast forward to the end of that career, which I didn't know at the time was the end of it. And there was this restlessness that I had. And I found my way to California, and a friend introduced me to this mixed blood Native American couple, Wind Eagle and Rainbow Hawk. And my wife and I took one look at each other after meeting them and said, well, this is the next step for us. And little did we know that we would go on an 8.5-year journey of being apprentices to learn the ways of earth wisdom, not from a specific tribe, but from the travelers, from the storytellers, from the ones who moved about the planet and shared the teachings of the earth and created experiences called ceremonies. So I've been doing that for about 30 years now. And the intersection between that work and the digital realm with Amy is so perfect for both of us. As she said, we share a lot of delight in visual expression. But more than that, there's a real hunger in both of us for the experiences that we have in this realm, in this digital realm, to be as deep and as profound as experiences that we have when we're on the earth, anywhere, yeah. But particularly in my realm, on the earth in ceremony, which is a very particular kind of gathering. And I would say over the last 13 years or so, Amy, we have had spectacular success at doing this and learning about it, and still are learning. And I think that's one of the delights of your invitation to us, is to come and talk about this, because as you know, when someone asks you a question, it opens the doorway for your own learning.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even know that I was thinking that until Madeline asked me that. So I'm really, really happy to be here.
Oh, good. There are a couple of thoughts that came to my mind as you were speaking. One was your Firehawk, when you met these individuals. I remember one time going to a retreat it was Taos, New Mexico, I believe. And I had been very disgruntled. I was tired of hearing the same stories over and over and over again. I said, they're not doing what they usually do. And I walk into the tent and I began to hear some of the Native American stories. And they just lit a fire in me. It was just wonderful. It was like, thank you. This is what I wanted, a new story. So I really can relate very much to what you said about that. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. I could go on like this all day, but we do have a subject here. And that subject is this aspect of being in the digital realm, being in the virtual, the real. A couple of weeks ago, I had a wonderful guest in from London, and she talked about roomies and zoomies, which I thought was just a very funny way to be able to distinguish. But I want to hear this from your perspective. Is there really a difference?
You want to start, Amy?
Okay, I'll start. Of course, there's a difference. It's really not that there's no difference. It's recognizing that the digital realm is a space like the physical. I've been searching for language that would separate the two without denigrating either, because they're just two different places, two different, opening different opportunities for what you can do together, ways you can be together. But there's an incredible overlap that I think most people don't recognize. There's a tendency to separate them and say, this is real, this isn't real. This is virtual, this is actual. And the truth is that we are as real when we're online as we are when we are on site. We are, we all have bodies, we all have our feet on the ground in different parts of the world. We're here, we're present. And to bring that forward and in our interactions and recognize that we are all whole human beings here together with each other when we're online changes it. Going back to some of what Firehawk was saying, when we first got together and we're talking about this work, because this has been a passion for me for many, many, many years, decades, really bringing my whole self, my physicality, my emotion, my spirituality into the online sphere in a way that is not that's not separate from. And when we were first conceptualizing our message, if you will. We were thinking about the sacred and recognizing that the digital realm, like all of life, is sacred if we choose to see it so. And that's true whether we are on site or whether we're online. It's our choices and how we choose to hold something, how we choose to hold ourselves and each other, that make the difference between, I mean, it's sacred whether we recognize it or not. But if we don't recognize it, we don't know it and we don't experience it. But when we recognize it, then it becomes imbued with the sacred. And so it's our choice how we engage online. So I'm not saying very much about on-site because everybody knows about that. Firehawk, did you add something? Anything?
Well, and yet what I've noticed about on-site gatherings in the last 20, 30 years is that they also are transforming. Just getting everybody together in a space and having incredibly boring PowerPoint presentations, over and over and over again. And, the birth of open space where the meeting happens in the spaces between people and people decide their own agenda for the meeting. So all of that change has been happening in that realm as well. And I think this notion that in our business life, in our community life, taking the time to acknowledge the sacred, it feels in most people's consciousness from left field, like we're here for a meeting, we're here to achieve some task, So what are we doing when this, being quiet together? What are we doing in this space of taking the time to hear from everybody, those kinds of practices? And what we've discovered over the years is how enlivening that is. In whatever context you're in, if you can hold that context in a way that doesn't freak people out, that doesn't have people go, oh, that's woo-woo. That was my favorite all those years. So I think that what's really fun is the dance between the two realms. And I think, one of the edges of our work is this notion of how do you do both? How do you weave the virtual togetherness in with the togetherness that's in a geography, that's in a place, and have them make a whole, not have one group feel separate from the others or less than. And I think part of the danger of separating the virtual realm as unreal is it makes it less than. And then our expectations are less. And that's never a good thing.
Never, for sure. One of the things that you said really caught me by surprise because I hadn't thought about it. The fact that how we come together physically has changed over the years. And you're absolutely right. I mean, techniques like open space is a very different way to come together. PowerPoint was I think it was a devastating introduction.
Okay.
I mean, technology is going to be very upset with me, but it was devastating to shift the attention away from someone's performance and expression to, well, just read it, Thankfully, there are people like Nancy Duarte out there teaching people that you really have to go back to storytelling, even with your slides. But that says to me, well, we shouldn't be afraid of this virtual aspect. Right. It's just another possibility that we can use.
Exactly.
So thank you for that insight. I also loved, Amy, your point about we choose how we hold each other. That's beautiful, because we do that whether we're in physically together or virtually together.
Yeah. That's right.
Looks like
Yeah.
Firehawk. Ah, there, you're back now.
I was in the world of whirling circles. It was quite for a
Each
moment.
of doom. Right.
Right.
I mean, so much of this is the same whether we're online or off or on site, because it's about us as human beings and the choices we make and how we approach life and how we approach our relationships. The same. I mean, one of the most fascinating parts of my work right now is really exploring how to bring the natural world into our experience online. And Firehawk and I have a lot of fun with this because this is a passion for both of us. And it's interesting, but the truth is that most people on site do not have a relationship with the natural world. That's not part of their ongoing experience. So it's not so different. It's, we're just working in different realms on the same things. And sometimes they will, if I'm having a really deep connection with the earth, I'll just come in online and that will be conveyed, and vice versa. I can learn things online that I can then practice on the earth. So I think the whole point for me is that they're not like this one is real, this one isn't real, but they're both real, and they are both the dance between, as Firehawk says, is the fascinating
dance. Yeah. Well, I want us to talk about how you do some of these things. For example, I was in a session yesterday. Believe it or not, it was from 11 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. It was a long session. They did give us breaks. They gave us breaks.
We got a problem right here. Houston, we have a problem.
Well, but I was able, believe it or not, through the fact that they gave us not just 5-minute breaks, they gave us 30-minute breaks.
Right.
I was able to hack it all the way through and was still engaged all the way to the end. But that was an extraordinary presenter. And she knew something about mixing things. But I want to ask you two, how do you keep people engaged? How do you get them engaged, and how do you keep them engaged? Because that's part of choosing how we hold each other.
I'll start with it's really about the invitation. What are you inviting someone to? Because if you're inviting someone to a meeting, that's one thing. If you're inviting someone to a community circle or to an exploration, a learning journey, all of these ways that we name what it is that we're doing in the digital realm really make a difference. And then there's that knowing what the expectations are, knowing that for first timers that have never been in a space with Amy and I, we make very sure that we're very clear about multitasking, and we're very clear about the importance of being seen on the screen. We're very clear about the invitation to take this time for yourself, if there's a personal focus to the work. And so those ways of inviting, and that's not different at all than inviting someone to a conference or inviting someone to a retreat. Setting those expectations and being very, very clear, both in the invitation and then in the beginning space. If we know that there's people that this is the first time they might have been invited to sit in silence together online, we'll make a space around that enough so that people can at least try it. At least suspend whatever disbelief might be arising in them and go for it. So that's where I'd start, Amy. And I'm sure there's other things you want to add.
No, absolutely. I mean, that is the and another way to say that is to invite people to become present,
Mhm.
to invite people to become present to themselves first, which is just what you were talking about with the invitation to take this time for yourself and just slow down and connect with yourself, and then connect with the others that are here with you. And we have a number of ways that we do that, but it begins, as Firehawk said, with the invitation and the explicit invitation to to be here, and to show up, and to show up in your wholeness, in your entirety.
I think this is part of the issue, that
Okay.
when we step into a meeting in a conference room,
Yeah.
you have expectations, you make assumptions about what's going to happen, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. On virtual space, this was completely unclear. So you're right that you just simply have to clarify those things.
Yeah.
Because adults like to know what's going to happen and why it's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And then they feel comfortable. Okay, I got it now. I'm in control.
What to do now. Yeah. Yeah.
So I love it. You begin with the invitation to make it clear. What are some other techniques? Let's say you get them in and they're engaged, but there's some people that you can tell they're off somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the first thing to really kind of land that invitation is to invite we call it stringing the beads, and it's some people might call it a check-in, but it's a deeper check-in, where you would really it's not just a top of the head, whatever, something just to fill time. It's something that means something to you and will help to bring you present. And we hear from everyone in the room, so that's an icebreaker internally. So once you've expressed something, you're there, you're engaged, you've been asked a question and you've responded to it. Whether you're doing that out loud, or depending on numbers, you might be doing that in written form, but something has been invited and responded to, expressed, and other people can see it, and other people can see you. And there's, you start off right away from a place of, I'm here. And that makes all the difference in the world. And you were asking earlier about how do you continue that invitation to be present and to participate and to contribute to what's happening has to be woven into your design, so that you're not spending, we break it down so that there's no more than 10, 15 max minutes at a time when people are not engaged, that there's no invitation to them to respond to something, or to think about something, or to say something, or this is a pretty fundamental thing in participatory practice. Is you are the expectation is that you're an important part of the whole, and you're not a spectator. This is not a spectator sport that we're up to. It's a participatory engagement. And so that invitation is explicit from the beginning, and then we continue to make it so that people have opportunities to participate and contribute.
Firehawk, give me an example of an opening question so that you get that initial engagement.
Let me just set a scene. So this is a group of people that have said yes to a series of digital realm meetings over a period of time, and they want to learn something, whether it's about hosting, whether it's about convening, whether it's about gathering circles, whatever it's about. This is art. This has been the invitation, and the people have gathered. So there is a shared sense of a purpose and an opening for learning. That's part of this particular scenario. Well, one of the things that happens in this very simple practice of, in a circle around the fire, it's a talking stick or a beautiful stone that moves around the circle and everybody holds it. But there's an effect that happens, and it happens just as deeply in the digital realm as it does around that fire. And that is that as you hear people's words, so the question might be, what is it that called you to take this journey? What is it that called you here? And so as the circle goes around, you hear people expressing what's in your heart. It happens every time. And so one of the things you have to watch out for technically is it can go long as it goes around. People want to speak more and more. So there has to be some boundaries to that. But that effect it really bridges the gap between engagement and non-engagement, because you're beginning to see, I belong here. This is, I may come feeling separate, because that's unfortunately part of our cultural pattern. You kind of come and you check it out and see whether it's worthwhile or not, whereas we, in these simple practices, they'll create a field effect. And again, it works both around the fire and in the digital realm. And those simple things, we don't ever usually have more than 20 minutes of content in a 2-hour engagement. Yeah, and that's outrageous if you're thinking about efficiency, but if you're thinking about weaving the circle together, it's perfect.
But there's another aspect to this, though. We talk about efficiency. I mean, I'm a teacher, I'm a faculty member, right? And what I want to do is to help my students learn, because I tell them, I don't teach you, I just help you learn. And that's when the 20 minutes of content compared to 120 minutes of process time, to me, that's golden. Because at the end of that 2 hours, the students know it enough that they've integrated it and can use it. So I'm on your side.
And I would add to this is that, sometimes we don't think about this as teachers or as leaders, but the wisdom is in the room. There are people in the room that are here to learn, that know a lot, and to be able to invite their wisdom, invite their knowledge. And so that we are learning together. The group is learning together. So it's not that there's 10 minutes of content of, what there is to learn. We're learning all the time.
That's right.
It's not, it's not like empty participation in the rest of that time. It's really an enriched learning field that gets created out of that participation, that collaboration. So
I think this is really incredibly important to those people who are watching, that you really have to think about what is it that you want to convey, and to I don't want to say package, but you have to put it in a container that allows people to drink from it or eat of it, and that's really what you're talking about. And a calling, I just love that phrase. What called you here? Why are you here? Because if you answer that, you're right. That's deep in your gut. That's great. Yeah. Exciting. Well, this is all happening in the realm of technology. I want us to turn the tables and say, okay, technologists, you've given us this great gift, and it is a gift. Oh my goodness. The fact that the three of us are talking like this is, and I know, for example, there's somebody in Tajikistan who's watching today. What is it that the technologist, what should we tell them? Now, this is what you really should be thinking about when it comes to exactly this kind of engagement.
Well, they are always, one of the things that I love about this field is that it's always evolving. It's always developing. I think back when I first started, it was literally all audio, which was a wonderful way to start, really wonderful way to start. But looking at breakouts didn't exist. We had to jerry rig these incredible complex
I do
things
remember those days.
into small groups. I mean, and the technologists, as you say, are listening. They're listening to what we're asking for. And so we can see each other. We can break into small groups. They're continually evolving. So I'm really, really happy with what's coming out. I have little kind of daydream fantasies. One of which is that we would be able to share food, because I'm always seeing people eating things that I'm like, oh my God, I want some of that. And so if we had a little drawer under our computer that we could just open and pull out the
A
plum
little
tart.
3D printer.
Exactly. Now you've got a technological mind because you're thinking about how to do it. How would we make that happen?
Of course.
Yeah, that's how about you, Firehawk? What would you like to see?
Well, oftentimes when I've been invited to events, they'll say, now make sure that you bring your glass of champagne with you or something like that. And then you all drink champagne. So why not say, make sure you have these 3 ingredients in your 3D printer.
We've had dinner parties like that, So here's here's our menu, here's the recipe, here's the shopping list, and let's look at each other's food, and we'll all be eating the same thing. So yeah, I mean, there are some ways around it, but you asked me to dream, so I did.
Why not? I remember many years ago I was teaching. I was teaching secretaries about technology. And I said, dream, what is it that you really want? And I said, now, I want you to think out of the box. I said, now, for example, I want a screen that is 4 feet high and 6 feet wide. Well, everybody laughed. Guess what? It eventually happened. Yeah. Well, one of the things I'd love to do is simulate one of your activities so that people can actually see it in action. And I'm a guinea pig, so I don't know what you're going to try on me. Can we do that?
Yes,
Of course.
Of course.
I'll give you a moment to think.
Should we do what we thought about, Firehawk?
I think so.
Or is there something else that's come up for you that you would like to?
No, I think what you thought about was good. Given the
okay. Yeah, so originally this question, this invitation was, what would you do in this moment to humanize the digital realm? And I thought of something, the what Firehawk was describing earlier, the way we often start, and that is to invite people to just take a moment and slow down, to take a breath, deep breath, and let it go down into your belly as you inhale and exhale back out. And feel that air, what the Hindus call prana, go through your system, enlivening it. Just invite you to breathe and become present here. And then invite you to think of something that you found beautiful today. Just think of something you found beautiful, and what was it? Why did you find it beautiful? And if you're at home, you can just write it on a piece of paper or just keep it in your heart. If you're on a live stream, if you're participating on live stream, write your response in comments so to share it with other people. Just something you found beautiful today and why.
Can I tell you what I saw?
Sure.
Outside my office, I have a sliding glass door that goes out into the backyard. And there is a there is a young canna plant. It's only about so high. And I went out and I looked at it, and the leaves curl and slowly, they unfurl. It was very beautiful.
For me, my wife and I moved to the duplex with our youngest daughter, who's having her first child. And so we've been in this young one's life for 6 months now. His name is Wesley. And the thing that I saw that was beautiful this morning was Pelly very often will go over early to help with both of them work from home. So they have a 6-month-old and they're working from home. And so having an extra set of hands, sometimes she goes to make breakfast. Sometimes, she just goes to hold Wesley so they can shower and, get ready for the day. But the thing of beauty was I slept in a little bit this morning. And as I got up, she was coming back to our place. And the look on her face in the kitchen, of such delight and such a place of love. I definitely felt that place of contact high, from her to me in that moment. And it was just really lovely.
Yeah, I was one of my cats. I've got 2 cats, and one of them came home yesterday injured, one leg injured. So she's dragging the leg, and we were like, oh my goodness, what happened and what are we going to do? And we just been watching her, and she hasn't been able to move much. And this morning, so every morning I feed them at like 7. This morning she comes hobbling out for her breakfast. And it was just that I don't know, for me, I think of beauty as something that arrests me, that stops my train. And there was that moment of like, she's going to be okay. So thank you for those who are writing in the chat for the live stream, and for the rest of you, just blessings on your experiences of beauty, because I think that is a really important thing to pay attention to.
Speaking of the live stream, it is like going gangbusters. It's more than I can read.
Good.
Yes.
There's one last thing I want to say about that, and that was when I remember my wife asking our teachers about the sacred, and and how do you make containers that are sacred. And their first response I've always remembered. They said, pay attention to beauty.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you're doing. I remember one time working with a whole bunch of guys in a construction company and making a central altar out of bulldozers and little toys and all this stuff, and the sort of shock on their face coming into the room. And after 3 days, they were speaking about what the center does when there's a center, and so I think this place of beauty is an important part of how do we make the digital realm beautiful, because in our minds, we think of it as technological and we don't go to beauty first. So I think it's an important indicator.
Lovely. Wow. I'm looking at the clock and I can't believe what we have just flown through this time. But I have a question I want to make sure I ask you. As professionals, we often are in the role of conducting such sessions as this. I wonder if you could just share with our audience some ways in which they can, for themselves, participate more comfortably with a real sense of comfort and productivity.
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
Okay. I think if there's a way when you come to every engagement, no matter what it is, no matter what the context is, if there's a way to touch into what matters to you in yourself and in your life, and to just, it doesn't have to be a long process, but if you hold that and that sense that you speak about, Madeline, of, the learner in us, each of us is an avid learner, no matter who we are, no matter if we think we're done learning. So to come to these engagements with that sense of, I make a difference, this matters, and I'm going to show up to, that would be where I'd start.
I think that is sage advice, because that's something that as an individual, you have complete control over. You choose that you're going to be open-minded to learn and to see what this opportunity offers to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one more question. It's the one that I hate to end. No, we won't end on it because I'm going to give you guys some time to do some last moments. But, the tech gremlins often get in the way. I remember I was interviewing someone who had just stepped off a plane in New York. He got the timing completely wrong. And so he had such a terrible connection. Okay. How do you work with that kind of thing? How do you deal with those little gremlins that come in?
I'm so glad you asked that. That's actually the thing that came up for me when you were talking about what would you suggest that would help people be comfortable? Yeah. And that is, that if you're leading online events, participate online as much as you can so that you become comfortable in this realm, because when you're comfortable, everybody else will be comfortable. And you have an extraordinary power, in a sense, as the voice, as the leader, as the visual of these events, to model what it is you want to see. So if you're comfortable when we call them tech monkeys, you're comfortable when the tech monkeys arrive and can just hold your ground and be patient and even make a joke about it, then everybody else relaxes. It's not such, but if you're kind of like, oh my God, what's, I can't hear you, what's going on? Then everybody else kind of gets the flutters and it's discombobulated. And, it's really to recognize your responsibility as a person who's holding space, to be grounded, to do your work before you show up, so that you are present, you are fully present, fully grounded. And everybody does that differently. But we all know what it is. All of us who are hosting in any capacity know that what we need to do to prepare to show up, and just hold that space and hold the group. And this is the same on site as online, but there are these little tech monkeys that we have a little joke, which is that sometimes we keep bananas with us and throw them into the kitchen to distract those little tech monkeys, because otherwise they can wreak havoc on us. So anyway, it's just to recognize that we're using technology. This kind of thing will happen, and to just let it be part of a normal part of life, and to not be distracted by it.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, how many times have I run a conference where we step into the room and it hasn't been set up the way it was specified?
Yeah.
So the same thing happens physically, except that physically we feel like we have greater control.
Right. Right.
All right. Well, I just feel so much more actually comfortable in this medium, simply because you have made it more familiar. And I've been working on this for 40 years, and still you've helped me feel that it's more familiar. The one thing that I am feeling bad about is that I haven't, there's so many comments that I hope I can find them after the show so I can read every one of them. But there are at least, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, 5. Yeah, at least 5, 6, 7 people that are on. And I know that some of them are overseas, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm just thrilled about that. That's partly because of your content and your topic as well. Well, I also love from today, choose how we hold each other. That's going to be a mantra for me no matter what I'm running. So with that in mind, I want to thank both of you so much and ask that if each of you take some time and please share some final thoughts with our audience.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So I think the final thing that I would say is that online is very much about inviting your body to participate, right? Because bodies are pretty darn important. And one of the ways that we do that and we're exploring. We don't have all the answers. This is just something that's alive for us that we're exploring. Looking at language and other, language, not just words, but all of our actions and invitations online to evoke the senses, evoke visual senses, audio senses, but also some that are not so obvious in this realm. One of my favorite of these is a sense of imagination. Mm. And not imagination in the sense of making something up that isn't there, like that's a common understanding of the word imagination. But in the Romantic poets, not that long ago, the word imagination was closer to its etymology, which is to give image to something that would otherwise be invisible. Yeah. So something that's present, but would otherwise not be seen. So to invite that sense of imagination, to bring in things like the rest of our body. I mean, I've got feet. And environments and, the whole of who we each are when we're together online. So, Huck?
Yeah, I think where I go to is, first of all, I think gratitude that these technologies exist and are evolving. I mean, I have a deep gratitude that we get to play this way. And a wonderful author who's no longer in his body, Ken Carey, wrote that electronic media would become one of love's most powerful tools in an age of chaos and change, and very much like the age that we are in right now in so many aspects of life with Earth, that this realm can be full of love. And I think that's my prayer, and it's also my passion.
Well, thank you both. What strong and important messages you bring to us. I just so appreciate your time and your energy and your wisdom. I'm going to take you off screen, but I'm going to invite you to hang around because after the show, I'd like to just do a quick debrief with you. So thank you again.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you, Madeline.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about what I've learned today. And I'm thinking of the amazing images from the new Webb telescope of NASA. It's bringing us images of the universe, including the identification of worlds. They are so distant from us in time and space, we'll never inhabit them. And as I think of today's conversation, I'm excited that there are worlds we can create right here that can be inhabited to our joy. And if you want more, my guests have full immersion courses about working online. They're available on an evergreen basis too. One is called The Practical Magic of Online Hosting and Mastering the Art of Tech Hosting. Two great opportunities. What you'll do, if you're interested in that, you can find the link to these in the Unlocked archives. They will be up by tomorrow. So I hope you will visit them at www.madelineblair.com/media. That's where you'll find the show, so you can listen to it again if you wish, and all the shows of Unlocked, and you'll have the link there for these evergreen courses. I hope you found this conversation useful. If you have, make a comment in social media about what you learned and will do differently as a result. And if you're on YouTube and LinkedIn, and I know there are lots of you out there, click the like button and make a comment, as many of you already have. As always, send me ideas of what you'd like to hear more about. Just write to me at madeline@madelineblair.com. What would be helpful to hear about? Maybe it's how to handle tough personnel issues, or what makes a great proposal. Let me know. And if I use your topic, you will receive a copy of my book, Essays in Two Voices, being used across 4 continents. Again, the archives of all of the shows are at madelineblair.com/media. Just scroll down and get some inspiration. And please check out my book, Unlocked, on Amazon. Oh, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this segment of Unlocked. I'm Madeline Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilience.